Hello YouTube! Hello! We're back! Of course we are. And today we're going to be talking about adaptation and adapting to the opponent, but this is very important, you're going to be adapting outside of your match. How is that even a thing? How do you adapt outside of your match? But yeah, let's start talking about this. So today we're going to be talking about adaptation and how it actually works, at least how I think it's going to be good to adapt to your opponent and your opponent's character. And we're going to be using Lars as an example. So this is also going to be a slight anti-Lars, I guess, very slightly. But yeah, we're going to be using Lars as an example. I'm going to use simple examples as well, because adaptation can happen in many ways, in very complicated ways, simple ways, doesn't matter, right? But I'm going to use simple examples. So let me just give you guys an example. Let's say you're playing against the Lars, right? You are playing against this character, and this adaptation, the word itself, does require character knowledge or character experience, both of them usually, right? So you have to have knowledge and experience for you to understand this, but it's not that much, right? It's based on each interaction. So let's say, right? Just give the example. 2-1 into orbital. This is a very common floor shot for Lars. You will see this a lot, and you might even get hit by this a lot, right? As someone who is playing against who's playing against the Lars. So 2-1 into orbital is very common. So every time you block a 2-1, what are you gonna do? So let's say you block a 2-1. You just block a 2-1 normally, right? You're playing against Lars. When you block a 2-1 normally, your normal reaction would be, it's -6, right? Normally it's -6. So let me just do a check. Let's say a down forward 4. But this orbital right here stops that. So a down forward 4 check, usually it should work. Usually. That's a mid. Okay, this is like a reality breaking flowchart here with that orbital. Which is, it's been here for a long time, right? This orbital. They still haven't fixed it, but I guess it's a thing. So now, you have to know that this is a thing, right? But the problem with adapting to something like this in a real match is that you're gonna get hit by this first, and then you'll be like, okay, now I'm not gonna press anything anymore, right? So the problem here is actually very simple. The problem is you have to get hit first, right? That is the problem. You have to get hit first to adapt to it. So now comes the other side, which I'm talking about. You can adapt to it outside of the match, which means that you're anticipating this even before it ever happens, because it's risky, right? So if you anticipate it before it ever happens, you're adapting to it without ever seeing it, without even being in the match, which is outside of a match, if you get what I mean. I might be using the wrong term here, but I hope you guys understand what I mean, which is practice mode. You're going to be adapting to it in the practice mode. So you're going to do something like, let's say you do a back 2 here, because you know it works. Oh, that works. If I want to check, I do that. Let's say I want higher reward. I'm gonna sidewalk here, and then I'm gonna have a launcher. If something like this happens, I'm adapting to it preemptively. I'm expecting it, and I'm already adapting to it by doing a specific option after it, like a sidestep or a specific check. Right? This is just an example of what this can be. I'm gonna give you guys a better example right now against Lars as well. And this is very important. This is very, very important. The 2-1 orbital thingy, you won't see too much. Sometimes maybe you will, sometimes you won't. But that's just an example how you can adapt in practice mode and outside of a match. But another very, very important thing is Lars' wall standing 2. So Lars' wall standing 2, this is super important to know how to deal with. Right? Obviously, it's super important. So, if you know the options that Lars players can do, you can adapt to each and every single one outside of the match. Outside of it. So, what I mean by this is that you can know that Lars has more or less 3 options, right? They will either continue this with wall stack 2-1, either continue this wall stack 2-3, which is a high and a mid mix-up, slight mix-up there, right? If you do want to deal with it, more or less. And the other one is wall standing 2 into stance cancel, or this stance cancel, either one of those. But this stance cancel is more common. So I'm not going to cover this one because it's doesn't really do too much, but yeah, wall standing 2 forward stance cancel is the more common one. So if you know these options, you'll already know how to adapt to them. Maybe that's a little bit of a better term. You know how to adapt to them without, thinking of options on the spot. You already know how to. So let me just give you guys an example. So wall standing 2-1 is a mid-mid that you can just, you're just blocking normally and you can punish it. It's -12. Very simple, nothing too complicated here. Let's see wall standing 2-3. Wall standing 2-3. So while saying 2-3 is a high, that is -11, but you can't really punish it, right? There's a pushback here. It's not really that punishable. Doesn't really work. But what you can do is duck it and then launch it. So it's a high. If you want to deal with a high, you're going to get hit by the mid. This is very simple stuff, and you'll understand, okay, I do either this or either that. But then comes a little bit more complicated part, which is the stance cancel. Why is the stance cancel even there for? Like, why is that existing? The purpose of that cancel, if you understand it, you will know why it exists, obviously, and you'll know how to deal with it, which is the more important part. And the part about this, the stance cancel, is that if you let this happen, let's say I'm predicting that he's gonna do wall standing 2, either the high or the low, and I'm not low, the mid, and I'm not doing anything, right? I'm just waiting for them. And if I wait for them, he's gonna go into stance and now mix me up, because this stance has a mix up. Let's say they do this, right? They can't do something like this. I'm just waiting. I'm getting mixed up because I'm letting them do it, because I'm waiting for the follow-ups. I'm just waiting for the follow-ups, but it doesn't happen. He goes into a stance and mixes me up instead. And this mix-up can happen in a lot of ways. This is how they can use respect in their advantage. If you respect it, let's say you respect the string or the other string by ducking it, they will use this as going into stance and then, let's say, mix you up like this, right? Let's say. Because I'm afraid, and let's say I duck here and stand up, now I'm going to get mixed up. Or I'm gonna just wait because I'm thinking they're gonna do a wall standing 2-1, which is the mid. I'm gonna get mixed up. So the adaptation here happens whenever you see that the large player likes doing this, right? Obviously that part is also very important. But the other side of adaptation also is that you have to know what to do here. You have to know this exists and why it exists. And a lot of large players do this. This is not uncommon. Not at all. So how you deal with this, it's very, very simple. You press, right? You just press a button. If you press a button, you will force them to not go into a stance anymore. The button, usually, the best button here will be something like a hop kick or a generic down 4-2, anything that launches on normal hit. Gauzy doesn't really have anything like that unless I just do an electric here, which is, pretty damn difficult. But you can do something like that. A down 4-2 is also great because they might just press an instant button like this 2 right here, which is a low mix-up. So when you just adapt preemptively, and you're thinking, okay, the large player most likely is going to go into stance. Let me just mash here and get my counter into a free launcher, because why not? So that is how you beat this. And now you understand that this gets beaten by a mash, but the mash gets beaten by the strings. It's really that simple. Well, for this interaction, right? As I said, I'm going to give a simple examples. So if you do wall standing 2-1, they do wall standing 2-1, and I mash after wall standing 2, I just see it mash, I'm gonna get hit. Obviously, right? I'm gonna get hit. It's the same with wall standing 2-3. If I just instantly mash after I block a wall standing 2 because I'm expecting a stance transition, I'm gonna get hit. But this is where another part of adaptation comes in, that you have to pick and choose which side you want to deal with. Do you want to deal with the strings or do you want to deal with the stats? And you kind of have to pick and choose. And the picking and choosing part is also a part of character knowledge and going into a matchup. If you want to get really good at a matchup, you will know these kind of interactions really well and how to deal with them and what's the best way to deal with them. This is another example, right? Is the high and the mid will beat your mash. But that's not the only way they can beat your mash here. There's going to be a lot of ways. Depending on large players, they might come up with a lot of solutions. Like, for example, they might go into a stance and power crush. And if I, let's say, do a button like this, I'll get hit. If I do a hop kick, let's say a hop kick here. What the hell was that? That was too slow. That's why I just wanted the hop kick. If you do a hop kick here, you might get tornadoed. Yeah, this was too slow and it just beat the... I don't know what happened there. But yeah, Tekken 8 stuff, I guess. But if you do a hop kick there, you might get floated. So this is just another thing that they will use to beat your mash. They might. And then you have solutions, right? The solution, easy one, is to just block it and punish it. Easy solution. Other one for high reward is maybe try sidewalking, right? Maybe try something like that if they like doing this. So if you already know the solution to your opponent's moves, you can adapt while in practice mode. Well, adapt is maybe, as I said, maybe it's a little bit of a wrong word, but you'll know your adaptation options very, very quickly, and you will just do it instantly. And you don't even need to see them because you know what their options are. Like, for example, if I want to deal with this power crush, the high and the mid at the same time, what do you guys think would be a best option? The best option here would be to do nothing. You just do nothing. Or you can even sidestep block, but I wouldn't really suggest it. Just do nothing, punish this, punish the double mid, and block the high. It's fine, right? It's -11. They don't really get anything out of it if they block the high. If you block the high. So that would be a great way to deal with this very, very simple interaction by knowing everything beforehand. You already adapted to all of this. But the moment they start doing while standing 2 into stance, now you know, okay, it's time for option B, which is I'm gonna mash. Obviously, it always is not that simple, especially against very good players. Very good players might understand that with Lars, they can do just the while standing 2. They just do this, right? And they don't do anything afterward. They just start blocking. Which means that they gain what we call a mental advantage, right? Because you're not doing anything, or you're gonna mash here. If you mash something that's safe, a generic down forward 2, that's why generic down forward 2s are so damn good, by the way. If you mash a generic down forward 2, you're still gonna be safe. It's not that big of a deal. But if you mash something punishable, the last player will block it here and then punish you. Right? So this is a very, very important concept to understand, to know your adaptation options beforehand, and even predicting how you can adapt to an opponent before they do any of the options. Another tip, extra tip, guys. This is also another way for you to force out options from the other player. Like for example, I'm going to give you guys an example of the while standing 2. Let's just say, right? We want the Lars player to do a while standing 2 into a stance. We want them to do this. How do we force this out? How do you think you can force this out? We want them to do this. The way you force it out is that you start respecting while standing 2 every time. So if the Lars player sees you blocking this while standing 2, let's say I block this while standing 2 and I just don't do anything every single time. I just don't do everything, right? I don't even sidestep, I don't do anything. I just wait. And especially if they finish the string, let's say they finish the string a lot and you always block it. Let's say I always block it, right? I blocked it, I don't know, 2 times. There's a good chance on the third one, they're gonna go into a stance. Very good chance. This is how you force it out and predict how they can switch their option. Because you already beat option A. So most likely, if the Lars player is good enough at least, they will switch their option to option B. There might be an option C as well, depends, right? But this is just a simple example. They might go into a stance now because I've been punishing this all the time. Or ducking the high. I'm ducking the high, punishing this all the time. I'm just doing nothing. And he's not mixing me up at all, right? He's just not doing anything. So chances are they're going to go into a stance now. This is how you force someone to use an option that you want them to use. Because if you want them to do this, let's say they do this, then just want to mix you up. Now you can go to option B because you like option B. Because option B gives you way more reward. Because it gives you this countered launcher that deals a lot of damage. If only I could perfect electric. But it deals a lot of damage. My controller gave out. And I perfect electric. And gave out again. Amazing. But yeah, you guys understand what I mean. You guys understand what I mean. Right? So if you want to force an option, this is one way to do it. It's an extra tip, but the adaptation happens in practice mode and outside of the match. In practice mode, replays does matter, right? Outside of the match. And as I also said, this is a little bit of anti-Lars and how to deal with while standing 2, for example, which is a very annoying move to deal with because it's dragging a fast mid and it's also safe. So yeah, hopefully this was helpful, YouTube. Hopefully this was helpful, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Till then.